Hello again, everyone. Are you getting sick of me yet? I hope not, because we have a long way to go still. But I am super excited for this session. I know I say that every session, but this one is really, really special to me. When we started out with the Recon Network 7 years ago now, there was one partner who we really, really aligned with under the auspices of really focusing on veteran purpose and helping find meaning and fit in the next stage of the career. And that was Smart Work Network. Jane Allen is here with us today. Her career choice GPS assessment is what we use in transition check-ins. At this event, it is one of the most fundamental tools that we have found that immediately helps people find out who they are. So it's a great tool. Everyone got a copy or a link to your own assessment. If you haven't taken that yet, you need to do that. But Jane is here today to talk about career fit and job fit. What does that even mean? It's a really nice thing to say, but does it mean anything? The answer, spoiler alert, is yes, but I'm going to let Jane tell you all about it and how you can determine what your job fit is and why it's important. Jane?
Thanks so much, Jordana. I really appreciate it. And good afternoon, all of you. I wish I could see you. I remember the first conference we had, Jordana, where we were in the room with everybody, and that was great. But just know that I wish I could see your faces, but thanks for joining us today. Before I get started, I want to just say that as I do this presentation today, I'm coming from the standpoint of, yes, having worked with Jordana for a number of years on this, but as a recruiter, I'm an executive search firm. And so every day almost, I do somewhere between 6 and 8 Zoom interviews with candidates. So over the last, 7 years, I've probably interviewed 2 or 3,000 people. So I have a great opportunity to experience both veterans and non-veterans in the actual interview process in terms of understanding what they're looking for and trying to understand my job as a recruiter is to make sure that I get that fit between candidates and the jobs that I'm recruiting for. So as I go through this, I want to just remind you that my experience, and you can see I have gray hair if you can see that well, is having spent a lot of time with individuals who are searching for the right job opportunity, but most often they're also searching for career. So I want to think about this as both job and career fit. So let's start out by, I'm telling you that today I brought a silver platter with me. And I'd like you to, wherever you are, take a piece of paper and just write a little blurb on what you believe today is your perfect career fit or job fit. If you know that, so just take a minute and write that down. And I will share with you that I did this exercise back in 2010 when so many people had lost their jobs in the downturn. And I had a room full of about 100 career seekers, transitioners, many veterans, as well as many professionals. And I asked them to do this exercise. And I said, I brought my silver platter. And if you can tell me what your perfect job is, I will deliver it to you on a silver platter. I'm making that promise to you today, saying, not literally deliver it to you, but I will absolutely guarantee that you will get there if you know what it is. So if you do know what your job career fit is, just write it on a piece of paper. What happened in that group? Of the 100 people, one person was able to put their perfect job there. One person had decided that they were going to go from being in maintenance and manufacturing to being a teacher. They had already gone to get a teacher certificate and they already had a job as a teacher in a high school. Most people, okay, not just veterans, most people do not know where they should go from here. Many people, millions of people, you've heard about the Great Resignation. Millions of people in today's job market have left companies without jobs. They've left jobs because they're looking for something different. Unfortunately, they don't know what that fit is. So let me just say, if you know what it is, and Jordana, you want to, see how many people actually have something, that's great. And then I'm going to give you my email later, and then you can hold me accountable to delivering you that job on this silver platter. So let's use an example in talking about career fit. Let's just use a simple, well, first of all, I'm going to give you a little agenda. We're going to look at some definitions about what career fit is. And then I'm going to share with you what I call a career fit equation that's going to give you some of the components that make up how you get to career fit. We're going to talk about how you get there from here. If you don't know what your fit is, we're going to talk about how you get there. We're going to talk a little bit more about the resources that Jordana mentioned, the career choice and the components of that should help you. And then we're going to talk again about why does it really matter. So let's first take a definition, and I want to use a simple definition about fit. I don't know about those of you in the room, but I spent my whole life trying to find the correct fit of shoes. Okay. And when I couldn't find the right fit, I have a very odd size shoe and a foot, and it was hard to find shoes that fit. So for years, I wore shoes that were the wrong size. They hurt my feet. They rubbed blisters on my feet. They made me feel miserable. And it wasn't until I was in my 50s and I found a shoe company that was a great fit for me. And since then, by the way, I bought 10 pairs of those shoes. But before that, I had spent thousands of dollars wearing shoes that didn't fit. And I didn't know that there was a better fit out there, because there's so much confusion about, if you look at shoes, there's so many confusion. One company has one size, one company has another. Now, I don't know about you, but if today I ask you to put on a pair of shoes that didn't fit, would you really do it? Some of you would. Some of you young women would wear high heels that hurt your feet, but they look beautiful on you. But I can tell you, over time, those high heels will start hurting more and more, and those shoes that don't fit will hurt more and more. And when it comes to career, honestly, it's like wearing a pair of shoes that don't fit when you're in the wrong job. Let's look at the classic meaning of job fit, and this will make sense to all of you. So most of the time when we think about career fit, we think about the knowledge we have, the skills we have that are a good match for some particular job that need that knowledge and skills, okay? Or we've had some experience in a particular role, maybe some role that you performed in the military, or before you went to the military, or even since you've left. And maybe you look at jobs out there and you think, okay, I think I'm a good fit for a similar job in that same industry or another industry. And then there's, oh, by the way, the great keyword search fit, okay, which is the way it's most companies find you, is they look at keywords in your resume, words that you've used like sales or leadership or management or creative or IT or values, logistics, you name it. They look at the number of times that you have a particular word in your resume, and they may reach out to you or not. From an online, if you apply online or to a website on a company, and you may match some jobs based on that. And then, of course, you got your DD 214, which has got all of your certifications and all of your awards and all of those things. And you look at that and you wonder, how can I translate this into a particular job fit? That is the classic way that companies look at you. They look at you from your knowledge and skills and what you've done. They do not know who you are. Okay. So your job is to help them understand who you are beyond just the classic meaning. Here's Jane's version of fit to career. It's a little wordy, but it's in bullet points. So let me go over this. So I believe that a career fit or a job fit is when you are able to apply who you are, and we'll talk more about that, not just what you've done previously, okay, but who you are, to some endeavor that matters to you. Most of you went into the military because you believed in the mission and what the military was doing, and you wanted to be a part of that for our country. And that was had meaning and purpose and that guided you into that endeavor. So you need to find another endeavor that matters to you enough so that you will actually invest your effort and energy in becoming the best you can be for the long term. I don't know how old you are, but for most of you, you've got a long life ahead of you to spend time in your career and your job. And I can assure you, having a bad fit will make it even longer. So you need to figure out what you're willing to invest your time and effort in for the long term. And then you need to understand it needs to be in an environment that allows you to work in ways that balance your need for structure or independence. And that means in freedom. So how we work, where we work, the geography, the type of organization, the culture, all of that is important to finding fit. So all of these components make up what I call fit. Ultimately, I love this quote. This is the name of a book. It's a great book if you want to read it. If you get all of those components right, basically you do what you love and that you're good at, and the money will follow. The candidates I see in today's market, more than any time in previous past, yes, they're looking for the right salary, but more importantly, they're looking for the right culture, the right organization that will allow them to grow, to develop, to succeed, to learn. And so finding those things that are important to you will ensure that the money will follow. And I can assure you that I am an example of that. I have tried to follow that rule myself and have had the opportunity to work at work that I love. And I've been able to make a decent salary owning my own business, doing the work that I love. And I assure you that you will be able to as well. I also like to give a philosophical perspective about fit. One of my favorite career books, if you have not read it and you're really interested in diving deep, is a book called What Color's Your Parachute? It was written some 40 years ago, but every year Richard Bowles does an update. So if you want to get it, it's just a very inspiring book with a lot of detail. But one of the things he says about career fit, he calls it your mission in life. And as I've already mentioned, most of you went into the military because you loved the mission that you were going into. And he says to use your talent, use the talent that you've been given and which you most delight in using. We all have been given talents that some of the things we don't want to use, but it's finding those things that really matter to us that we do want to use, but finding a purpose that the world most needs doing. So today, more than ever before, there are so many areas in our world that need strong people. They need strong leaders. They need leaders like yourselves who've had amazing opportunities to learn and grow and become leaders. So the world needs people like you. So it's finding something that not only you want to do, but that the world needs doing, but again, in a setting or an environment that appeals to you. So that's a little bit of a philosophical perspective of fit. But you know what? Wouldn't it be easier if somebody just said, "We want you," like the Army or the Navy or the Air Force did for you? We really want you, so just come join us and be in this job. Unfortunately, companies don't really know who you are. They only know what you've done. They only know what's on your resume. They only know what you've been able to give them. Very few companies, in my opinion, dive into finding out who you are as a person. So in order for you to really find that fit, you're going to need to do that work yourself. So I'd like to suggest that there are several components to finding this career fit. And we use an equation that helps us describe those. The first, we use the word talent. I like the word talent. The word talent comes from the Bible, the parable of the talents, where the servants were given different levels of talents, which was different size talents, different forms of payment, if you will. Some hid it under a bushel, others invested it, and then they were given more and bigger opportunities because of the talent and the way they use their talent. So we all have talent. The kind of talent that we described in the classic definition is what we call trainable talent. Okay, it is our knowledge, our skills. It's those 10,000 hours that we put into certain things. It is our education. It's all the things that we've learned in the military. It's our certifications. It's all of the things that we know or we have as part of our experience, and that is what primarily people talk about in interviews. That's primarily what companies ask you about. What I would like to do is expand your thinking today beyond just that kind of talent, because there is a equally as important talent that you probably haven't even thought about. For those of you who have completed the Career Choice GPS, you already have a little view, a little snapshot of that. But we want to talk about the concept of inherent talent. And why is inherent talent so important? First of all, we mean hardwired talent. We mean talent that developed in you from 0 to 16 years old. So before you even went into the military, if you were somebody that went in right out of high school, your inherent talent was already hardwired in you. Now, what is that inherent talent? That is the feedback, that is the nurturing that we were given from our parents, from our coaches, from our teachers, from our religious institutions, from our tribe, whoever our friends were. Any feedback or any role models that we had in our life informed our inherent talent. And we're going to talk more about what makes up that inherent talent. But the reason that's so important is because your inherent talent is your potential. Your potential is made up of what you could be. It's all about what you can do. So when you understand your inherent talents, those things that are inside of you that make you different from everybody else on the planet, those things in my world are more important even than what you've done in your knowledge and skills. Without understanding your inherent talent, you'll never understand your fit. So we'll come back to that. The second thing that is important to your career fit is your habits or your effort. So in looking at our talent, there are things we can do, but honestly, there's some things that we don't want to do, okay? Or that we like to do. So those things that we like to do, okay, or want to do and are willing to do require us to put in effort. And if we don't really want to do it, we're not really going to put that effort out. So when we're evaluating our fit, we have to think about, yeah, I've got this talent, I've got these 10,000 hours, but do I want to put in another 100,000 hours on this? Do I really want to do this again? Do I want to continue this? So think about it in terms of, am I willing to put out the effort, build the habits to become the best that I can be in this opportunity? The way we think about opportunities, I can tell you our habits of thought and our habits of behavior, which we're going to talk about where that is in the career choice, that will affect our ability to be able to be a good fit for a particular opportunity. And we call that the will do. The third component is frankly just the opportunity. Okay, so is the opportunity something, is it the right kind of company? Is it a small company, big company? Is it my own company? Is it an independent contributor? Is it a 1099? Is it in a foreign country? Am I going to travel? Am I going to stay local? Am I going to work from home, work at the office? It's all those things that make up a particular job or career opportunity. And you want to evaluate your talent, who you are, once you know what your inherent talent is, and you've looked at your trainable talent, and you've looked at this whole will do in terms of habits. You want to say, do I want to invest in this opportunity or that opportunity? So you have to compare these components of talent and habits to each opportunity. you notice that there is an X between these. So when you have an equation and you're multiplying, you know this, when you get any one of these goes away, it's a big fat zero. So if you don't know what your inherent talent is, if that's not a good, if you don't know what that is and your trainable talent, you don't know what you feel about it and how much effort you're really willing to put into it, then you just going over, you're applying for jobs and you're just looking at the opportunity without the knowledge of the first two. Frankly, it's very doubtful that you're going to get to fit, because if you're expecting the company to know, they don't know. It's a superstitious dance. They're on one side of the table, you're on the other side. When I'm recruiting people, they think I know who they are because I have their resume in front of me. I don't begin to know who they are. So if they can't tell me more than what I see on a resume, it's very hard for me as a recruiter to know whether or not this person is a good fit. And my job as a recruiter is to do nothing but try to figure out whether or not a candidate is a good fit. So if the candidate doesn't know, guess what? The recruiter and the hiring manager does not know. So we're going to look at these components a little bit more. I'm going to tell you, how do I get to that good fit from that particular equation? Number one, you have to know yourself. Self-awareness is the number one component of finding fit. If I don't know who I am, then how can anybody possibly know who I am? So there's been lots of this quote by Lao Tzu, who was a Chinese philosopher. It's been used many ways. Many different people have used it, but it's all about, if we don't know who we are, how can we possibly expect anybody else to know who we are? So the first component of finding fit in your career is having self-awareness. What do we mean by that? Well, first of all, let me just tell you, 95% of people think they know who they are, that they're self-aware, about 10 or 15%. In my recruiting, the number one thing I look for, as I mentioned, is this person aware of themselves enough that when I do ask them questions, they can tell me specific examples about ways that they've used a particular competency, a way that they have been involved in a particular aspect of the job. 90% of the people have a very hard time giving examples. They can say, oh yeah, I've done that, or I've done that, but they can't give me any words around how they did it. If I ask them about themselves and what do they want to do in 5 years, most people can't answer that question. So self-awareness is the number one thing you have to have in terms of getting to fit. What does self-awareness mean? We have to be conscious of who we really are. We've already talked about that. What's important to you? We've already talked about that. You have to know where you are now. Okay. Where are you in this job search? Where are you in trying to get to where you want to go? And then where do you want to be in the future? I interviewed this week. I asked the question 17 times, where do you want to be in 5 years? 3 candidates were able to answer that succinctly. Most were like, well, I just need to make some money. Okay. Or just need a job. So that doesn't tell me a lot about what this person's aspirations or goals are. And you need to be conscious of what you need to do to get there. Let's talk a little bit about what we mean by self-awareness. So there are 3 components to this, to getting to what I call is self-confidence. Is some people only learn from what they don't do well. So I'll ask a candidate, tell me about a time that you've done this. And they make up stories. They talk around it. They don't ever really give me an example, as I just mentioned, but they might tell me something, and particularly in interviewing veterans, I will tell you my experiences. If it's something you haven't done previously or you don't think you've done, you're often going to say, I really haven't done that, or I don't know, I haven't had any experience with that. So some people only learn from what they don't do well. Those people don't show up very confident. They show up sort of as self-doubters in an interview. We call that unconscious competence and conscious incompetence. So I know what I don't do well, but I don't really know what I do well. So I can't really describe it. So giving an example of something you've done well and you can't describe it, that means you're a self-doubter. You're not really sure about yourself. And then we have the other side of that, which is often, salespeople, which I've been interviewing this week, and they sometimes only know what they do well. They learn, they know what they're good at, but they honestly don't know what they're not good at. And we call that arrogance. When somebody says, yeah, I can do it, I can do anything. And then I ask them to give me an example and they tell me something that is unrelated, or they continue to say, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that, but they can't describe it. So in order to get to fit, this awareness that we need to have has got to be around our conscious competence and our conscious incompetence, which means, in short, we have to know what we do well and what we don't do well. One of my favorite questions in executive interviews is, tell me one thing that you don't do well. I have been shocked through the years of people who are even making $500,000, and I ask them that question and they think it's a trick question. And therefore they will say something like, wow, that's really hard. But sometimes people tell me I work too much. That has nothing to do with what they don't do well. If you ask me what I don't do well, I can tell you I'm horrible with Excel spreadsheets. Jordana had to walk me through how to get this PowerPoint up. I'm not really good with technology. I don't like admin. I can run on and tell you all the things I don't do well, but I can also tell you what I do well. So knowing what you don't do well and having that clear and understanding that that doesn't mean you can't do the job. It just means you're looking at this job or this opportunity from, I'd like to be spending 75% of my time on something that I not only do well, but I like to do. No job is perfect, even if we own our own business. I hate admin work, but at least 30% of my work is admin. So we have to be willing to know what that good is from the great of what we're really good at in order to have self-confidence. So the second component is we have to have self-confidence. Again, Richard Bowles has a great quote on this around self-confidence. He says, as most of us know, the proper attitude towards ourselves is called self-esteem. But self-esteem is an art of balance between thinking too little of ourselves and thinking too much of ourselves. So this concept of balance between what we do well, what we don't do well, what our strengths are, what our areas of development are very important. The next area is self-management. And this is an area that Jordana knows is kind of, I'm really a student of self-management. I work with a company called a self-management organization. And the work that we do, the career choice, is based on self-management. What does that mean? It means for career that in today's world, nobody's really going to help you get a career. I mean, Jordana's doing this fantastic job. Other organizations are helping you, but ultimately it's really your job. Nobody can hold your hand. So Peter Drucker, who is called the father of modern management, wrote more books on management and leadership than anybody in the world. And he wrote a book on managing yourself. And he said 50 years ago, for the first time, literally substantial and rapidly growing numbers of people have to make choices. For the first time, they'll have to manage themselves and their careers. And most workers are totally unprepared for it. I will tell you, most of the candidates that I interview do not have a clue what it is that they're really good at and what it is they really want to do. They're just applying for the next job in their litany of jobs that they've had throughout their career. And they're continuing to have blisters on their feet because they keep going from one to the next and not finding what it is they're looking. Instead of looking outside, instead of looking inside, they're looking outside for someone to find that. So self-management is the number one competency that you'll need. I'm happy to say that we've been a part of, as Jordana mentioned, of Recon and this summit for the last 7 years. And we started that by saying, Jordana, we are happy to provide the most predictive career choice, the predictive career assessment in the world to all the veterans who go through your summit. We have given away thousands of career choice assessments throughout the years, not only to Jordana's summit, but to other veterans who want this opportunity to learn about themselves. So let me explain for those of you who have not yet completed the career choice, why you should complete the career choice. First of all, the career choice is going to give you what your inherent personality traits are. It measures your inherent personality traits. There are 7. 3 of them are kind of hardwired by the time you're 16. The others are hardwired by the time you're in your first or second job. If you've been in the military, they are already hardwired as well. The first 3 are enterprising potential, achievement potential, and independence potential. And enterprising potential is all about, am I a person who really likes to, kind of own my own decisions about where I'm going? We like to go after things. A lot of people who are in sales are very enterprising. They're very proactive. People who like more structure and order and kind of more steady state are more responsive. So your enterprising potential tells you whether or not you're a more proactive or a more responsive. Both good, but are very different in terms of the types of job fit. Achievement potential is about how much challenge am I looking for in my job? How much money am I seeking? Versus, do I want kind of a steady paycheck? Do I want to be able to, go to work every day, know I'm going to get a paycheck, and be in more operational roles? People who are, again, more in sales or entrepreneurship like that more high achievement. Excuse me. Independence potential is, do I like to work alone as a solo performer, or do I like to work in a team? I know in the military you do a lot in teams, but you also do things independently. So do I want an independent role working behind a computer, or do I want to work with other people? The other 4 areas are people orientation, which has to do with, how social am I, how extroverted am I compared to how introverted I am. Your emotional quotient, how much do I understand my own feelings versus those of others? How can I read people? Comfort with conflict. Every job out there has a certain level of conflict. So how well do I manage that conflict? How well do I deal with rejection and difficult situations? And then there's analytical orientation, which is really about what's my learning potential for, especially for technology. So as I mentioned before, this inherent part of you, this career choice measures who you are. It literally measures who you are. It doesn't look at what you've done. It looks at who you are from this perspective. And that's all I'm going to say about these inherent traits, but these traits will inform the types of job roles and careers that you're a better fit for. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. The second part that the career choice looks at is something we called attitudes and beliefs. Remember, we talked about that will-do component in that equation. The will-do has to do with how are we feeling about this? How do we feel about this particular, even the job search and the transition right now? What am I feeling about that? And how do I feel about this job? And that shows up in your assessment as what we call attitudes and beliefs. They're called lifestyle management. That has to do with your stress level. Self-confidence or self-directed has to do with exactly what we mentioned. How am I feeling about myself today and this opportunity? Commitment reluctance in your career choice, it will say network self-promotion, but that is about, can I really talk about myself? Do I even like this opportunity enough to be able to talk about it? Can I talk about myself even in my career search? So if you can't talk about yourself, in having interviews, if people don't have the confidence to talk about themselves, it's going to be pretty hard to get an opportunity with somebody else is going to see that lack of self-confidence. So you have to have that self-confidence. It also measures your listening style. Are you able to listen and really hear what other people say? So we say that this measures how you're feeling right now. So right before I jumped on, I went back and looked at the 17 career choice assessments that have been taken. Some of you in this room may have taken it already. Of the 17 who completed it, 14 people are showing up in the red or somewhere close to the red, which means in the self-confidence factor or in the commitment reluctance factor. All that to say, most of us, when we're going through transition, will show some stress factors related to our self-confidence. So don't let that affect you. This is only around the time you completed the assessment. But if you do show up in the yellow and red on those components of the assessment, then you're going to have to look at yourself and say, how can I work on my self-confidence? My self-awareness is going to drive that self-confidence. How can I get there before I can even begin to talk to somebody about who I am? So when you look at your career choice, you'll understand these more, but the attitudes and beliefs will inform you about how you're feeling about the will do in the career in your life. The next thing that the career choice does, and this is the most amazing part, as Jordana mentioned, it is going to take who you are based on those things that we just mentioned, the hardwired personality traits and your learned behaviors, and it's going to match you to 66 career families with a 1 to 5 scale. And so you'll get a page that shows you all of your fit scores. So you can go in, just because you're a good fit, by the way, it doesn't mean you necessarily want to do that. So I might be a really good fit in finance, but have no interest in finance. So what you want to do is look at those areas of a good fit. And we say anything from a 3 to a 5 is a good fit, from good to great, sort of. And then look at those areas where you're a good fit, and then look at those areas that are of interest to you. And that way you'll combine what you're interested in with a fit. You double click on those links in that assessment. It has those are live links, and it will take you to hundreds of jobs in those particular careers. So the career choice is going to give you a good way to understand who you are relative to your career fit. Next, it's going to tell you some things to seek and things to avoid. Okay. Remember, I mentioned it's good to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. This is going to give you some knowledge and information, some words that you can use. Avoid situations that are entirely results driven and are not, where you don't have a well-constructed plan. So you're going to get some career advice here that is related to who you are, how you've completed the assessment. And just so you know, to trust the data, 40 million people have completed this assessment. So when you get this data, you can trust that there are 40 million other people out there who have taken the assessment. And that's where we get the big data that lets you know that the information you're getting is good for you. So why should you take it? Because millions of career seekers, including thousands of veterans, have completed this worldwide, and they have realigned their career goals after understanding their inherent talent. If you're going off only your knowledge and skills and your experience right now, you're going off half the information you need, really maybe a third of the information you need. It is never going to get you to your career fit. So why is this important? Well, look at these feet. This poor person looks like they've been walking in bad shoes their whole career, right? We don't want that to happen. We want you to be walking confidently into your new career with the self-confidence that you know where you're going. These folks look like they know where they're headed, and we want you to know where you're headed. At the bottom of the screen is my email. If you know what you want to do and you want me to deliver a job to you, and that doesn't literally mean that, but I'm certainly willing to talk to you about it. There's my email address. Reach out to me. But you'll have to take the career choice for me to give you any advice. Jordana's really good at debriefing these career choices well. Also, at the bottom of the screen is Career Choice GPS. It is a website that has videos that explain everything about the career choice. It will explain each of those hardwired personality traits. And it also has other resources, workbooks, and that kind of thing. So, and these links are all in your assessment, but I just wanted to give you that as well so that you could go and find that website and use those resources that we have there to help you. I wish you all the luck in the world. I do hope you'll take the career choice, and thank you for taking the time to be in this summit. Wish you all the best, and thank you for being in this session. Jordana?
Jane, thank you so much. As always, you come through with exactly what we need to hear. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about just the assessment and stuff in the chat. So guys, if you don't have it, there's links in your email with your free assessment, or you can go to the Smart Work Network booth over in the expo and download it there as well. So, but definitely take advantage of that. Even if you're in the best job in the world and you love it, knowing yourself is just a huge step in, future casting your life. So Jane, thank you so much. We really appreciate you spending your time today. Guys, we've got about 15-20 minutes for another break. It has been a long day, so take a break, hydrate again. Join us in the lounge if you've got a few free minutes, and we will see you at the next session.